Hello and welcome to Week in One, a look at the top stories of the past week on ENCA. I'm Sally Burdett. And we start in Soweto, which has seen a week of bloodshed and looting of foreign-owned shops. An incident on Monday in Snake Park, which left a teenager dead, seemed to spark wide-scale looting. By Friday, over 80 shops had been ransacked, the unrest had spread to Kagiso, and another person had died. Police were present and made over 100 arrests, but were unable to stop the large-scale plundering. ENCA had a team on the ground monitoring events as they unfolded.
A chaos on the streets of Soweto. Residents brazenly looting shops owned by foreign nationals. But Gauteng police are adamant they are on top of the unrest.
I'm confident that the situation is under control and has been stabilized.
As Motiba spoke these words, this was happening in Dobsonville. Meanwhile, 37 community members charged with robbery and public violence appeared in court. The matter has been postponed to next week, and the state says it's planning to oppose bail. While looting continued in Soweto, the Somali national charged with killing a teenager on Monday was in court. Senosi Yusuf looked a bit dazed when he appeared in court. He spoke only once, confirming his name. Yusuf's brother and several other foreigners from the community say they'll be back to support him on Monday. Balungelo Boy, Soweto.
It's believed the teenager who died on Monday marked the beginning of the looting, but it also emerged that a tuck shop owner from Malawi was disemboweled just hours later, that attack taking place in Roodepoort. Community members insist the attack was xenophobic, but police maintain the motive was probably robbery. Please be advised that you may find some of these visuals disturbing.
Scattered sweets and blood. The inside of this tiny home bears testimony to the last moments of its elderly owner. He was a former Malawian miner who eked out a living running a tuck shop, known by the community as Mr. Mpandi. Small and quiet, he was overpowered in the early hours of Tuesday morning. Residents say he was disemboweled and set alight.
I've never seen anything like that. His private parts were removed and his intestines were coming out of his side.
He had a stabbed wound and also he was found with his face bent. We don't know his identity yet, and we are appealing to anyone to come forward as no arrest has been made yet.
Durban Deep has been ravaged by the murderous wars between illegal miners, with locals facing off against miners from Zimbabwe, Malawi and Mozambique. Some residents here believe that the attack on Mr. Mpande was driven by xenophobia.
I was shocked. You know what happened so far? You can't even believe that we, the black people, we love one another.
Police say they don't know the motive behind the killing, but say it isn't xenophobia. Amid the squalor and deprivation of this area, this vegetable garden stands as a poignant tribute to Mr. Mpande's life. Community members here say he spent many years tending it. They also remember him as a deeply religious man who always taught young children to have good manners. Karen Morn, Johannesburg.
While looting continued in Soweto throughout the week, police tried to accommodate fleeing shopkeepers. They have been moved to the suburb of Mayfair for now. But there are foreigners who are refusing to leave. They say this is their home and they are a vital part of the community they serve.
Some foreigners who've made a home for themselves here in Bromfisherville, Soweto, say they usually enjoy a good relationship with South Africans. In fact, before this week's looting, they say business was booming. Many of the spaza shops are owned by migrants from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Somalia. Locals say their goods are often cheaper, their stores closer to home, and when times are tough, the shopkeepers let them buy on credit.
Especially for me, to go to Spa, it's far, or to go to ShopRite, I must catch a taxi. And meantime, if they were here, I used to just go.
Those who've gone on the rampage, however, have accused foreigners of stealing jobs and business opportunities from South Africans. It's a common refrain, but many residents are adamant this resentment isn't the reason for the latest attacks.
We are lazy people from South Africa because we don't want to make the shops, you see. So then they're helping us, they're cheaper.
Foreign business owners here in Bromfisherville say they left their countries because of political upheaval. And even if they had the money, they won't return. Many of them now have families to support and businesses to rebuild. Narissa Subramani, Soweto.
To education matters now, and this week was a big one for coastal schools, many of them reopening for the 2015 school year on Wednesday. While there was plenty of excitement at many schools, for the children of Manenberg, going back to school is always an anxious time. The area is at the centre of a vicious gang war.
It's back to school for these grade 5s at Sonder End Primary. But with a new school year comes a renewed fear for their safety. Just the day before the reopening of schools here in the Western Cape, a stray bullet entered their classroom window and exited the prefabricated wall.
When there is shooting around, then everybody falls flat on the floor. Okay, the teachers know that. And we have it every year. But new learners will have to learn it again now. So that is how we cope with it.
Manenberg now resembles a war zone. Police helicopters hover overhead, while law enforcement officials patrol 9 hotspot schools. For some parents, this is not enough. They're opting to keep their children at home until government acts.
The children can't go to school because of the gang violence, because us parents have to run to the classrooms. It's unsafe for the children and teachers. The Minister of Education should come out to the poor areas. Helen Zille-Anderl should come to the poor areas.
It's estimated that at least 20 people have been killed in gang-related shootings here since mid-December. Leanne Jansen, Manenberg, Cape Town.
KwaZulu-Natal schools also reopened this week. And for some, the long walk to education continues quite literally. The school transport program hasn't reached all areas and walking is risky. One high school pupil who was raped while walking home last year is dreading going back to school.
Preparations for school start before 5 a.m. in the Ndlovu household. Within an hour, it's time for the kids to start their journey. They attend Manzolwandle Primary School, about 5 kilometers away from home.
For pupils here, there's often no alternative to these grueling walks to get an education. But the long distances traveled on these lonely roads can also prove to be quite dangerous.
That's exactly what one Mutu high school pupil tragically found out in August last year. She was raped and beaten with a stick while taking the 2.5-hour trek back home from school. That incident has affected her studies.
Noma uthisha efundisa bengivele ngifike lo usizi nokucabanga engathi ngingalala kuze kube ngcono mangithole abangane ngikwazi ukukhuluma nabo kodwa masibhala nje okunye bekhamba ngoba bengasazi noma mhlawumbe ingqondo yami iyahamba noma kanjani.
She's not sure how she'll cope with the new school year.
Ngoba esaphuma usangaphinde futhi aphinde abuya azokwenza semtingi noma mhlawumbe kungaseyikho ukuthi mhlawumbe uzongiripha mhlawumbe uzongibulala ingakho sengibona sengisaba ukuthi ngihambe ngiyesikoleni ngingedwa.
The KwaZulu-Natal Education Department has a learner transport system in place in some parts of the province. It's unclear how many of the 54 schools in Ngutu have applied for transport, or why the service isn't operating here. The Provincial Education Department did not respond to repeated requests for comment on this matter. Desantathia, Ngutu, KwaZulu-Natal.
Still ahead on Week in One, the controversial DA and Kandla SMS, which was banned last year, gets its day in court. And we find out why you need to monitor exactly what friends post on your Facebook timeline.